When I was asking about the experience, what was it like? Like, was it fait accompli? I'm going to go. We knew Tim Duncan was going to be number one.
Right, for sure. And when we were preparing for the draft, I didn't work out for anybody outside of the top 10 that didn't need a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked out for, I believe, 4 or 5 teams at that time, but they were all in the top 10. New Jersey, Denver, Boston, which was New Jersey and Boston were the hardest workouts I've ever had. That's when Calipari was in New Jersey and just came from college. So you were doing all of the,
right.
We're going to pick up for full court for 82 games and that whole thing. And Vancouver, that was the only teams I worked out for.
Did you think that you might go 3 to Boston? Was it down to Billups and you?
No. Once the draft started, I knew. Like, it's almost like when they start, you have a pretty good indication where you're going. So when the draft started, I knew Tim. Yeah, like in advance.
Reporters know who's going to go where.
Well, I know like my agent who was there,
right.
When the draft started. And it's crazy because I knew where I was going to go, but I was even more nervous to hear my name called.
Right.
Because, as a child, you sit there and you watch the draft and you watch the draft. It's like, wow, one day I would love to be in that position. And you do all this work and you go through so much. You're actually at that point where your life is about to change. So I knew I was going 4th to Vancouver. And then just to think after drafted, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, my gosh, I'm next. It's amazing, though.
Yeah. What was your contract your rookie year? Do you remember?
3 years, 8.4.
Nice.
Now that was still waiting for that here on the radio.
Now what was Duncans Deal? What was Duncans Deal?
Well, you're
were they
slated in.
Slotted?
Yeah, you already
slotted.
Yeah,
at that
so
point?
we came in about a year or two too late.
I don't remember much about that draft, but I think you wore like a light-colored suit. Am I correct on that?
Uh-huh.
Like a whitish.
No, it wasn't white. Don't say white, because then you make me
like,
sound like a pimp.
Not white, like whitish.
Cream, yeah, maybe? There you go.
Cream.
Bone colored.
Bone, okay.
Right, bone colored.
Do you still have that suit? Your
I do still have it.
Yeah.
I do still have it.
Right. That's so sad.
When did you know you were a pro? Did you think like senior in high school, I'm a pro?
No.
Or was it sophomore years in college?
No. When I was in college, I went to a workout that I don't even know what it's called, but something the Boston Celtics did.
Right.
My junior year with some other guys that were slated to be pros or whatever, and I actually played really well.
Mm-hmm.
And
you didn't test the waters your junior year and then come back.
No. Because if I would have tested waters, I would have been over the water playing somewhere in Europe. Like that, there's no way at that time. And, it's crazy how life works, because it actually took something dramatic for me to kind of alter my thought process. When I lost my brother my junior year in college, who was playing at the University of Dayton. And from that point on, that just kind of motivated me in a different way. So after my junior year on the draft board, I was 160 something. And by the time I was getting drafted, I heard scouts talking about it's the fastest rise of any player that they've ever seen. And a lot of it just came from motivation of dealing with the fact of losing my brother.
Remind us of how your brother passed.
He just passed in his sleep.
Wow.
Cardiac arrhythmia. He was playing he was a center at the University of Dayton.
Big kid? He was a big kid.
6'11". So
do you think he had the cardiomyopathy? Is that the idea? Is that what you guess?
No, I mean, my family never had any history
or Marfan syndrome
of that.
Or whatever these guys have.
Never had any history of it. Any heart failure, any heart problems, heart issues. And, before I went back to Bowling Green, I went through a ton of heart tests, and
everything came out fine.
Everything came out okay, yeah.
Right. But that will jar you. That will change your perspective.
For sure.
Antonio Daniels hanging out with us in studio, former Wizards point guard. We'll talk some NBA draft. Can you imagine what it's like for a guy like Markelle Fultz, who we had the head coach from DeMatha on earlier in the show. Jason played at DeMatha. He was on JV 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's going to be in the NBA.
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what's weird to me about today's NBA. You have so many one and dones, and these guys will soon be the faces of franchises. These guys are a year removed from prom.
I know.
Right.
If
you think
18
about
years old.
Right, if you think about the amount of pressure that these guys are under to be something that some of these guys are ready. Yeah, I will not say that. But some of these guys, you know, and I'm not just talking about physically, because physically they have the tools. But it's a lot more involved to the NBA than what you can do physically.
Right.
You know, what do you have psychologically, emotionally, all the things that come along.
Because they're not playing with kids anymore. They're going to be playing with men.
Right.
Yes.
Can you handle the grind of the travel, the media commitments, you know, the off-the-court
all
things?
the people asking you for money.
You seem pretty down to earth. Were you ever tempted for any of the fast lane stuff?
I'm not a fast lane guy. You know, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, so, you know, that's not a...
Yeah, but then all of a sudden you get into money. I mean, all of a sudden overnight you're signing an $8.4 million deal. And
all the guys want to go to the club after the game.
Or don't you want to?
I mean, when you're 20, 21 years old, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
But you didn't get carried away.
No, like, you know, I've never drank in my life. You know, I never touched alcohol in my life. Never.
Wow.
You know, those are things I've never done.
Wow.
You know, like I said, I'm not the fast lane type of guy.
That's just
that's why you look so good. You stayed away from the poison.
The booze.
You stayed away from the poison.
Clean living right there.